Okay, guys, so we are just about to dig in right now. I'm at a different location. I'm whispering. It's about 10:30 at night on Tuesday night. These videos are supposed to go out tomorrow, 6 a.m. So um, I've been very busy in California, so I have not been um, getting these. I've been getting videos out to you guys just slowly, and yeah, so bear with me. This is a few more. This is the last week of me in California, so just bear with me. So today we are actually going to look at the Declaration of Independence and the stuff that led up to the Declaration of Independence. So I'm on my phone. You can follow along. AP Study Notes, you know the deal. Declaration of Independence. Let's jump right in to the Continental Congress, and we'll break down the Continental Congress. So, in response to the Patriots' defiant outburst and the destruction of British goods during the Boston Tea Party, Parliament enacted several laws to tighten its control over the colonies. The Coercion Acts, called the Intolerable Acts by Americans, punished primarily Bostonians, but affected people in all 13 colonies. The legislation increased Americans' resentment towards Britain and galvanized the Patriot resistance. In September 1774, delegates from 12 colonies, the governor of Georgia refused to send a representative, met at Carpenter's house in Philadelphia to fashion a common response to the Intolerable Acts. John Adams, George Washington, Samuel Adams, and Patrick Henry were among the 55 members of the First Continental Congress who discussed various ideas and drafted resolutions to address colonial grievances. So, even though the Intolerable Acts was meant specifically for people in Boston, the whole American colonies felt like if Britain is attacking one colonial city, we all have to stand together to combat this. So they all sent representatives from 12 states, Georgia excluded, to draft up the Declaration of Independence, a proper response to the governor, to Britain. One proposal, the Plan of Union, presented by Pennsylvanian Joseph Galloway, called for an American government consisting of a president appointed by the king and a council selected by the colonies. The American official would regulate internal colonial affairs and possesses the power to veto parliamentary acts affecting the colonies, but remains subordinate to Parliament and the Crown. Galloway's moderate proposal was defeated by a vote of 6 colonies to 5. Paul Revere then submitted the Suffolk County Resolves that rejected the Intolerable Acts and called upon Americans to prepare for a British attack. After endorsing the resolutions, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Rights and Resolve drafted by John Adams, drawing upon the immutable laws of nature and the rights of Englishmen. The Declaration argued that Americans were entitled to legislate for themselves in all cases of taxation and internal policy, conceding to Parliament only the power to regulate our external complex. So, we are basing these decisions based off of Enlightenment principles. During the course of nearly 2 months, the First Continental Congress endorsed many documents and open letters to the peoples of Great Britain and Canada explaining their actions. In an appeal to the king edited by John Dickinson of Pennsylvania, the delegates blamed the crisis on Parliament and Lord North's administration. Americans were not yet demanding independence, but sought the right to participate in a free government that protected their liberties within the British Empire. Before adjourning, the delegates organized a Continental Association that called for a complete boycott of British goods. The delegates agreed to meet again in May 1775 to discuss Britain's response to their decision. So, outright boycott of British goods, and they are waiting for a legitimate decision by Great Britain. Tensions between the colonies and Great Britain escalated following parliamentary elections that gave Lord North's government a majority for the next 7 years. King George declared the New England colonies to be in a state of rebellion. That's important. And Parliament supported his decision to coerce the colonies. Resistance was also stifling in America. Colonists increased their efforts to enforce the British boycott by appointing association committees to monitor compliance and expose all violators. People caught breaching the boycott were often tarred and feathered. The failed attempts to negotiate a resolution with Britain prompted many colonists to secure weapons and conduct military drills to prepare for a possibility of war. So we see them closing in on this idea of going to war and fighting for independence and all that stuff. They have not made the decisions to fight for independence. But they are getting ready, they're getting prepped. In January 1775, orders went out from London to prohibit the meeting of the Second Continental Congress. The following month, Parliament declared that Massachusetts was in a state of rebellion, and military reinforcements were dispatched to America under the command of 3 senior generals. On the night of April 18th, General Thomas Gage sent British troops marching from Boston towards Concord. The soldiers were ordered to seize colonial weapons and gunpowder and arrest John Hancock and Samuel Adams, who the British considered to be leaders of the Patriots. So it's starting, guys. It's starting. The American Revolution is about to get started in Lexington and Concord. We are about to see the American Revolution go down. Took us 11 videos. Okay. As the Redcoats, so Britain Army, entered Lexington, they encountered a band of colonial militia called Minutemen, who were trained to fight on a minute's notice. The two groups exchanged heated words, and as the Americans slowly dispersed, a shot was fired. The British continued their march after the brief scrimmage, leaving behind 8 dead Americans. At the North Bridge in Concord, the Redcoats met a sharper fight, and casualties were sustained on both sides. American essayist and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson later immortalized the event as the shot heard round the world. The Revolutionary War begun. Hold on. On May 10, 1775, representatives from all 13 colonies met at the State House in Philadelphia for the Second Continental Congress. Joining many members from the First Congress were Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, and Thomas Jefferson, a young Virginia planter who had recently written essays criticizing the British monarchy and supporting the rights and liberties of America. Also representing Virginia was George Washington, a veteran of the First French and Indian War, who attended sessions dressed in his colonel uniform. Many cautious representatives from the Middle Colonies feared that radical New England delegates were pushing the colonists into open rebellion. After much debate, the fighting in Massachusetts finally convinced a majority of the delegation that a military defense plan was necessary. Washington's experience in battle and his willingness to defend America influenced congressional members to appoint him as Commander-in-Chief of the newly formed Continental Army. The selection of Washington to lead the army appeased many conservatives who distrusted people from Boston. Washington's wealth and his refusal to accept pay for his position squashed suspicions that he was a fortune seeker. While the battles at Lexington and Concord pressed many colonists into joining military forces gathering near Boston, members of the Second Continental Congress believed they could still persuade the king and parliament to resolve the colonists' grievances without more bloodshed. So they still believed, they still wanted to be loyal to Britain after all of this time and heartache and all of this. They still wanted to be loyal. So they wrote the Olive Branch petition as a final cry out that we still want to be loyal to you. This does not have to involve any more bloodshed and all of that. We still want to be loyal. The following day, the delegates endorsed a declaration of the causes and necessity of taking up arms, written by Dixon and Jefferson. It proclaimed, "Our cause is just, our union is perfect." American patriots were prepared to fight to preserve their liberties as British citizens. In November, however, word arrived that King George III refused to receive the Olive Branch petition and officially proclaimed the colonies to be an open and avowed rebellion. As the fighting between the Patriots and the Redcoats intensified, the Second Continental Congress assumed the functions of a national government. It appointed commissioners to negotiate with Indian tribes and foreign governments in an effort to form military and diplomatic alliances. It also authorized the creation of a navy and several battalions of Marines and organized a postal system headed by Benjamin Franklin. And it begins. The start of America. See you guys in part 2 of this video.